Hello, did you miss me? I'm Tatiana Guan, and this is the Effortless Reality channel, a space where I document how I actually transition from the old ways of life to a new one that requires less suffering, less drama, more ease, more peace, more fun. One which is really more about removing outdated and unproductive habits and thoughts rather than accumulating new skills and new tools. Because the way to enlightenment is really a way of removal, not accumulation, one day at a time, day in, day out, all that chopping wood and carrying water. So that you get rid of everything that the ego has added, accumulated on top of your pure essence, the one that God created, as A Course in Miracles is apt to point out over thousands upon thousands of pages. I am considering of resetting the numbering of my videos. It's been 2 weeks since I posted the last video, but it's really been 3 weeks since I actually recorded, because I did record a few ahead of a trip, and it feels different. It feels like it calls for a new numbering. I change the numberings of my videos every time when I feel like I have made yet another transition, personal transformation, a new step. So far, I think I can count 4 of such transitions, but there are probably more because I was actually switching and transitioning long before I started this channel. Last year, about the fall, I took a class with Lee Harris and his Z's. It was online, and indeed, most of the time I was in this dreamy state. I love the classes and very interesting, very many insights. And one of them, I heard them saying that I will be undergoing 11 such transformations. Now, they were talking to everybody, but I take it personally. You're there. There's some aspect of personal messaging once you get to this state of awareness that you cannot hear messages that are not really for you. And I thought, wait, 11? That is so oddly specific, but at least that is what I heard for myself. And indeed, if I think about it, in the past 10 years, I have gone more than 4. You're going to see once I put this video, it's going to say Effortless Reality 4.01. So that means this is the 4th time since I started counting and I had the channel. But before that, I had at least 2 or 3 such transformations. I used to connect them to the Plutonian transits in my chart. But it's not only Pluto. I have known since the beginning of the year that there will be some changes as soon as the lunar nodal nodes shift into the Leo Aquarius axis. And they did sometime at the end of July. In fact, most of the year I spent like really eager and impatient to see what that will be. You can see I tend to be, I have a restless and creative mind, as one friend once pointed out. But the point is, I do feel different. And the South Node currently entered Leo. It's going to be there for 18 months. And guess what? I have Sun there. It's still gonna take maybe another half a year or so before the South Node hits my Sun. But the effect of the transiting South Node is of removal. Again, removal of everything that doesn't serve me anymore, everything that I have mastered, everything that has no room for growth, everything that I'm ready to move on from. I'd like to think that the effect of the transiting South Node is one of helping me distill. I still have my Sun in Leo, so I'll always be Sun in Leo for this life. But there will be that fine tuning of what Sun in Leo is, a little bit less desire for recognition, or maybe like awe and audience, and a little bit more centeredness into my own truth, and strength in my own truth. So both aspects are aspects of Leo, and of course having the sun, I play them both. There are plenty of days when I look at the numbers of views on my Effortless Reality channel. It's like, man, this is moving so slow, and is there really only like 50 people on this planet who actually can hear my message? And there are days when I'm actually more in touch with that essence, with my true self, where I remember that the whole channel started because I'm documenting my own journey. Where it reaches, how it reaches, who it reaches, it's beyond me. I'm reminded of the story of that old guy. I think that story comes from the East, I think. Some guy who spent like all his life recording sacred texts, creating it, and then back then, all those parchment papers, I guess. And then he goes to this intersection and lays it down, and the first person comes, some merchant, grabs it and uses it to wrap a fish. So I always ask myself how I would react if someone really takes one of my books or something that I have created and turns it into a wrapper for fish or steak. But you get the point, right? It's an exercise of letting go, an exercise of reminding yourself that you don't see all the details, you don't see everything into a given situation, you don't see how humanity is going, you don't even see your own future. So who are you to judge what something should or should not be? Again, it's easy for me to argue with myself and have all these wonderful arguments, but again, when on those bad Sun in Leo days, I do get my cranky moments. Fortunately, they seem to be far apart, and I seem to be able to snap faster out of those funky days, which to me, again, as I've pointed many times, including in my book Effortless Reality, it's a sign that I'm going in the right direction. Because the path to enlightenment is not waking up one day saying, I'm awake. Yes, we all heard Buddha said so. But what they didn't tell us is what happened afterwards. It wasn't all rainbows and unicorns, at least based on my experience. But it feels like the path to that enlightenment is really following a spiral trajectory. And so there are ups and downs, but the overall trend is upward, and the spiral gets stretched and stretched with farther distances between the whoopses, and much faster getting yourself out of the funk. But going back to that sense of, I feel like a new persona has settled in. I don't know, number 5, 6, 7. I don't know how far I am along that path that Lee Harris's Z claimed that I'm gonna go through 11 of those. But there's also another reason. And that is, about 2 weeks ago, it was my birthday. As I said, Sun in Leo here. And I did something out of character, or at least what has been out of character for me for the last 20 years. I went on a solo trip to Sedona by myself. I allowed my family not to join me, simply because I knew that some of the things I wanted to do, they might not care for it. And while they'll humor me because, well, they got sport with that, I said, look, there might be other things that you might enjoy more. And so I spent about 5 or 6 days in Sedona, Arizona by myself on my birthday. And wow, what a trip. First of all, they were not joking about those energy vortices density on the ground. It turned out that I didn't need guides and I didn't need maps. The energy there is off the charts. I had trouble sleeping at night. And I don't know, maybe it's just me, maybe at the stage where I am transitioning from one persona to another persona, but it was intense. During the day was fun. Of course, during the day, the literal heat is there, so you had to drink a lot of water. And I could tell, because the moment I would forget one of my cups of water, I would feel this sense of fatigue coming up on me. So I was like, oh, water. So yes, but I'm not ready to talk about it yet. Not because I want to keep it secret. I don't feel I can put to words what the experience was. Um, there were a lot of hikes early in the morning. In fact, the first day coming from the East Coast, I was jet lagged. I ended up like being up on the mesa at 2:30 a.m. I went to the airport mesa, although I found a parking a little bit lower than the top because there's some light from the airport, and so I didn't like that part. I like to stargaze, and the sky above Sedona is amazing. So I just pulled over in a small parking lot at the start of one of the trails, and I sat there for about 20 minutes. I think it was like close to 3:30 a.m. So there's the jet lag, but there's something there in the air, and I enjoyed tremendously. Obviously, there was hikes, but most of my hikes were early in the morning, and then the rest was visits to many crystal shops. Who would have thought that I actually enjoyed crystal shopping, or at least crystal sightseeing? And if you ever go to Sedona, I just wanted to say that in 3 days, there were not many things I can go and check. There were a lot of hikes and trails. But the thing that took me by surprise, because I didn't know about it, and I went there and I met this guy on one of the trails early on, and we exchanged information about where I have been, where he have been, and he told me about the Tibetan Buddhist Amitabha Stupa Peace Park. I was like, huh, that was not on my itinerary, but I did check it out the last day before I left, and that was the biggest surprise. So if you ever visit Sedona, I would recommend that is one of your places to visit. There'll be more coming about that experience. In fact, I actually recorded a video, but I'm not ready to share it. It's just too personal after I went there and visited the stupa. And yes, I did circle the stupa in the correct direction and did some hiking and went back, but that's a topic for another video. The point is, I do feel different. And I cannot tell how much was it because I was already different, and that's why I went to Sedona, out of character by myself, or maybe because I went there, chicken and the egg effect, or maybe I went there and then already the transformation picked up a notch. But stay tuned. There are a lot of stuff coming up. Physics, metaphysics, and everything in between. Tons of ideas. And so there'll be videos coming up. Stay tuned.